My brother locked me in his basement after I opened his freezer. The moment I opened my brother's freezer, my entire life changed. 5 minutes later, I was locked in his basement. I had gone to his house because he called me crying. That was the first strange thing. My brother Michael did not cry, he yelled, he cursed, he blamed other people. He hung up before conversations got too honest. But that morning, his voice cracked so badly I barely recognized him. "She left," he said. I sat up in bed. "Who left?" "Jessie, his girlfriend." They had been together for 8 months, which was a lifetime for Michael. He usually burned through relationships quickly, then explained afterward how every woman had been dramatic, insecure, unstable, or impossible to please. Jessie had lasted longer because she was quieter. Too quiet sometimes. I had only met her 4 times, but every time I did, she watched Michael before she answered questions, like she was checking whether she was allowed to speak. "What happened?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "We argued. She packed a bag. She's gone." I heard glass clink in the background. "Michael, have you been drinking?" No, he was lying. I should have stayed home. Instead, I threw on jeans, grabbed my purse, and drove across town because that was what I had always done. Michael broke things, and I showed up afterward with tape, apologies, and excuses. His house looked normal from the outside. That was what bothered me later. The grass was cut. The curtains were open. His truck was in the driveway. Nothing about it looked like a place where something terrible had happened. Michael opened the door before I knocked. He looked awful. His hair stuck up in every direction. His eyes were red. He had a scratch under his jaw and a dark stain on his gray t-shirt that looked like coffee but wasn't. "You came," he said. "Of course I came." He stepped back and let me inside. The living room smelled like stale beer and something sharp underneath it. Cleaning spray, maybe. The couch cushions were crooked. A lamp lay on its side near the wall. I looked at the floor. There was a small brownish stain near the rug. "What happened in here?" Michael followed my eyes and moved in front of it. "Nothing, we fought. I knocked over a beer." I wanted to believe him. That was my first mistake. "Have you called Jessie?" I asked. 100 times. Did she answer? No. Text? No. Do you know where she went? He rubbed both hands over his face. "She said she was done with me." That sounded possible. It also sounded rehearsed. I walked into the kitchen and found the sink full of dishes, 2 empty liquor bottles on the counter, and a takeout bag still sitting open from the night before. "You need to eat," I said. "I'm not hungry." "You're shaking." I said I'm not hungry. His tone snapped sharp enough to make me turn around. For 1 second, I saw the Michael everyone else saw. Then he softened. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm just messed up right now." I opened the refrigerator. There was almost nothing inside except beer, half a carton of eggs, and a jar of pickles. "You have anything in the garage freezer?" He froze. It was so quick, I might have missed it if I had not been looking at him. "No," he said. "No meat." "No frozen meals?" "No. Michael, you always keep food in that freezer." I said no. That should have stopped me. Instead, I sighed like a tired sister and walked toward the garage. Behind me, his voice changed. "Wait." I turned. He stood in the kitchen doorway, pale now. "Don't go in there." "Why?" "Because it's a mess." "So is your kitchen," he swallowed. "I'll order food." I looked at him for a long second. Then I opened the garage door. The smell hit me first. Not death, not exactly. It was bleach. So much bleach my eyes watered. The garage floor was wet in streaks, like someone had mopped in a panic. A red bucket sat near the wall. Rags were piled beside it, and against the far wall sat his white chest freezer. The lid was closed. A chair had been pushed in front of it, not placed, pushed, like a barricade. I heard Michael behind me. "Please," he said. That word made my hand reach for the freezer lid. I do not know why. Maybe because Michael never said please. Maybe because some part of me already knew that whatever was inside would explain the way his house felt, the way he looked, the way he had tried to stand between me and the truth. I moved the chair. Michael whispered my name. I lifted the lid. At first, my mind refused to understand what I was seeing. There were towels, a blue blanket, a pale hand, fingers curled slightly inward, dark nail polish. A silver ring I recognized because Jessie used to twist it whenever Michael talked over her. I stepped backward so fast I hit the workbench. The freezer lid slammed shut. Michael was crying now, not loudly, not dramatically, just tears running down his face while he stared at me like I had done something to him. "What did you do?" I whispered. He shook his head. "What did you do?" "I didn't kill her." I reached for my phone. That was when he lunged. He grabbed my wrist so hard I cried out. My phone slipped from my hand and skidded across the garage floor. "Michael, let go. Listen to me." "Let go." She was already dead. I tried to pull away. He shoved my phone into his pocket. I said, "Listen, you need to call the police." "I can't." "Yes, you can." "No, I can't." His face twisted, and for the first time in my life I was afraid of my brother, not annoyed, not disappointed. Afraid, I backed toward the door. He stepped with me. "Michael, I just need time to explain. There is a dead woman in your freezer. She overdosed." "Then why is she in your freezer?" He looked toward the basement door. My stomach dropped. "No," I said. "I'm not going to hurt you." "Michael, move. I just need you to calm down." I ran. I made it 3 steps before he caught me around the waist. I screamed and kicked, but he was bigger than me, stronger than me, and desperate in a way I had never seen. He dragged me to the basement stairs. I grabbed the doorframe. "Michael, don't do this." "I'm sorry." He pried my fingers loose one by one, then he pushed me down the first few steps. I caught myself against the wall, pain shooting through my shoulder. The basement smelled damp and old. One bare bulb glowed above the stairs. Michael stood at the top, shaking. "I'll let you out when you understand." Then he shut the door. The lock clicked. For a few seconds, I did not move. I stared at the door and waited for my brain to make sense of what had just happened. My brother had locked me in his basement. My brother had hidden his girlfriend's body in a freezer. My brother had my phone, and upstairs above me he started pacing. I ran up the stairs and pounded on the door. "Michael," no answer. "Michael, open this door." His footsteps stopped. Then his voice came through the wood. "I didn't kill her." "Then call the police." "They won't believe me." "Why not?" Silence. I pressed my forehead to the door. "Why not, Michael?" When he finally answered, his voice was low. "Because of Kendra." I closed my eyes. Kendra, his ex-girlfriend. 2 years earlier, she had called the police after an argument. Michael told us she was being spiteful. He said she had exaggerated everything. He said he threw a remote at the wall, not at her. Mom believed him. I wanted to. Kendra did not press charges, but the report stayed on file. At the time, Michael said it was unfair. Now there was a dead woman in his garage freezer. And suddenly, that old report was no longer an unfortunate misunderstanding. It was a warning. "What happened to Jesse?" I asked. He sat down outside the door. I could hear his back slide against the wood. "We fought last night." "About what?" "Nothing." "Michael." She wanted to leave. My throat tightened. "That is not nothing." She said I scared her. She was right. I never touched her. I looked around the basement for another way out. There were 2 small windows near the ceiling, both painted shut from the outside. A washer and dryer sat in the corner. Old boxes were stacked along the wall. A metal shelf held paint cans, tools, and a few extension cords. No phone, no outside door. I went to the window and tried to force it open. It did not move. Upstairs, Michael kept talking. "We were drinking. She had pills. I told her not to mix them." "What pills?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" "Anxiety meds, pain meds." "Something, were they hers?" "I think so." "You think so?" She had them in her purse. I climbed onto the washing machine and shoved at the window again. The frame groaned, but it stayed shut. "When did she die?" I asked. "I woke up at 4. She was on the couch. And instead of calling 911, you put her in a freezer?" His voice cracked. "She was already gone." "You don't know that." She was cold. "You don't know that." He went quiet. That silence told me more than any answer could have. Michael had not checked properly. He had not tried to save her. He had seen a problem and tried to hide it. That was what he did. When he broke something, he hid the pieces. When he hurt someone, he explained why they made him do it. When consequences came, he looked for the nearest person to blame. This time, the nearest person was dead, and I was locked below him. I searched the shelves with shaking hands. Paint, Christmas decorations, a rusted toolbox, a broken lamp, nothing useful. Then I found an old screwdriver. I grabbed it like a weapon. "Michael," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "You need to listen to me. I am listening. No, you're panicking. You still have a chance to tell the truth. They'll say I killed her. Maybe they will. He made a sound like I had slapped him. I kept going. But hiding her makes you look guilty. Locking me down here makes you look worse. I didn't know what else to do. You let me out. You give me my phone. We call the police together. No, Michael. No, his footsteps moved away from the door. That scared me more than the argument. Michael, no answer. I heard cabinets open upstairs, a drawer slam, water running. Then the garage door creaked. I started pounding again. Michael, what are you doing? Nothing. I pressed my ear to the door, then I heard the freezer lid open. My stomach turned. He was moving her. That was the next layer of horror. Not just that Jessie was dead, not just that Michael had hidden her, he was still trying to make the truth disappear. I jammed the screwdriver into the door gem and tried to pry the lock plate loose. The metal slipped. I tried again. My hands were sweaty. My shoulder throbbed from the fall. The screwdriver scraped uselessly against the wood. Upstairs, something heavy thudded. I froze. Then came Michael's voice, strained and breathless. I'm sorry, Jessie. I covered my mouth. In that moment, I understood something I had not wanted to understand. Michael was not deciding whether to tell the truth. He was deciding how much truth he could erase before anyone found out. I screamed until my throat burned. No neighbor came. No one knocked. No one saved me, so I stopped screaming and started thinking. Michael's house was old. The basement ceiling was unfinished in places. Pipes ran between wooden beams. I followed them with my eyes until I found the main water line, then the electrical panel, then a narrow crawl space behind the furnace. The crawl space was filthy, but there was a vent at the far end. A small one. Too small for me to climb through, but maybe not too small for sound. I crawled in with the screwdriver and kicked the vent until one corner bent outward. Cold air rushed in. Outside, I could see a strip of side yard and the bottom of the fence. I screamed again. Help, please help me. Nothing. Then a dog barked. I knew that dog. Mrs. Alvarez next door had a little terrier that barked at everything, including leaves. Help, I yelled. Mrs. Alvarez, the dog barked louder. A window opened somewhere. I sucked in air. Help me. I'm locked in the basement. A woman's voice called, Who is that? It's Michael's sister. Call 911. Footsteps thundered above me. Michael had heard. I scrambled backward out of the crawl space just as the basement door flew open. He stood at the top of the stairs, wild-eyed. What did you do? I did what you should have done. He came down 2 steps. I raised the screwdriver. Don't. He stopped. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then he looked at me like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. Not as his sister, not as someone who would fix this. As someone who would not protect him anymore. His face crumpled. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. That doesn't change what happened. She was going to ruin me. The words hung between us. I stared at him. What? He gripped the railing. She said she was going to tell people. Tell people what? That I scared her. That I wouldn't let her leave sometimes. That I threw things. My stomach went cold. This was the midpoint where the whole story shifted. Jessie had not simply overdosed after a normal argument. She had been trying to leave a man she was afraid of, just like Kendra had, and Michael had known exactly how it would look because it was not the first time. You told me she dumped you, I said. She did. No, you told me that like it was heartbreak, but she was escaping. His face hardened. You don't know what she was like. There it was, the turn, the blame, the same old Michael standing above me while a dead woman lay somewhere upstairs. She pushed me, he said. She knew how to make me angry. I stepped back. She is dead, Michael. I know that. Do you? He looked away. Sirens sounded in the distance. Faint but real. Michael heard them too. His expression changed. Fear returned. He reached into his pocket and pulled out my phone. For 1 second, I thought he might throw it to me. Instead, he looked at the screen. What's your passcode? I laughed once because the question was so insane I could not help it. You locked me in a basement and now you want my passcode? I need to text Mom. No, she'll know what to say. No, she won't. She always knows what to say. That was true. Our mother had always known exactly what to say after Michael did something wrong. When he punched a hole in our childhood bedroom wall, she said he was under pressure. When he screamed at a teacher, she said the teacher had embarrassed him. When Kendra called the police, she said some women liked drama. And I had gone along with it because it was easier to believe Michael was misunderstood than to admit he was dangerous. But now Jesse was dead, and I was done helping him stay misunderstood. The sirens grew louder. Michael looked toward the garage, then back at me. "I need you to tell them I panicked." "You did panic." Relief flashed across his face. "Then I finished. But before that, you controlled her. You scared her. You hid her body. You locked me downstairs. And whatever happened last night, I am not lying for you." He stared at me like I had betrayed him. That was the worst part. Even then, he believed loyalty meant protecting him from the consequences of his own choices. The doorbell rang. Michael flinched. A voice called from upstairs. "Police department?" He did not move. "Michael," I said quietly, "let me out." His eyes filled again. "I'm your brother." "I know. They'll take me away." "Then open the door before they have to break it down." For a long moment, I thought he would refuse, then something in him collapsed. He walked down the stairs, slowly, and handed me my phone. His hand shook so badly the screen tapped against my palm. Then he sat on the bottom step and put his head in his hands. I ran upstairs. The front door was still locked. Through the glass, I saw 2 officers on the porch and Mrs. Alvarez standing behind them in her robe with her dog under one arm. I opened the door. The officer took one look at my face and asked, "Are you hurt?" I tried to answer, but all that came out was, "There's a woman in the garage." Behind me, Michael started sobbing. The next hour came in fragments. Officers moving through the house. Someone leading me outside. Mrs. Alvarez wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. An ambulance arriving with no urgency. Detectives asking where the freezer was. Michael sitting on the curb in handcuffs, staring at the pavement. At one point, he looked up and found me. I expected anger. Instead, he looked small. Not innocent. Small, like a man who had spent his whole life being protected from consequences and had finally met one too large for anyone to soften. Later, I learned the final truth. Jessie had not died in the freezer. She had died on the couch sometime in the early morning after ingesting a dangerous mix of alcohol and pills. The medical examiner could not say Michael caused the overdose directly, but investigators found more. Texts from Jessie to a friend saying she was afraid to leave because Michael had blocked the door. A photo she had taken of a broken picture frame from a previous fight. A voicemail where Michael told her nobody would believe her because she was just like Kendra, and a half-written message on her phone from that night. If anything happens, it was not an accident. She had never sent it. That message haunted me more than the freezer. Because it meant Jessie knew she was in danger before I did. Maybe before anyone did. Michael was charged with unlawful imprisonment, abuse of a corpse, evidence tampering, and several related charges. The investigation into the events before Jessie's death continued for months. Mom wanted me to visit him. I did not. She said he needed family. I said Jessie had needed someone too. For the first time in my life, my mother had no answer. At Michael's hearing, I testified about the freezer, the basement, the phone, and what he said when he thought he could still control the story. His attorney tried to make it sound like grief, like panic, like one terrible mistake after another. But panic does not move a chair in front of a freezer. Panic does not mop a garage with bleach. Panic does not take your sister's phone and lock her underground. Panic may explain the first bad decision. It does not excuse the next 10. When I finished speaking, I looked at Michael. He would not look back. That was when I knew the brother I had been trying to save for years had never really wanted saving. He wanted rescue, from blame, from truth, from himself. And I was done being the person who arrived afterward with tape and excuses. The last time I saw Jessie's ring, it was in an evidence photo. A small silver band on a pale hand, half hidden under a blue blanket. I still think about the moment I opened that freezer. People ask if I wish I had never gone to Michael's house that day. The answer is no. I wish Jessie had left safely. I wish Kendra had been believed sooner. I wish I had paid attention to all the little warnings I dismissed because loving someone felt easier than seeing them clearly. But I do not wish I had stayed home. Because if I had, Michael might have moved Jessie. He might have called her missing. He might have cried in front of our mother and let everyone believe another woman had simply walked away from him. Instead, the truth came out. Not all at once, not cleanly, not without pain, but it came out. And when the police led Michael away, I did not feel triumph right away. I felt grief. For Jesse, for the brother I thought I had, for the years I spent mistaking excuses for love. The triumph came later. It came the first morning I woke up and did not wonder what Michael needed from me. It came when Kendra sent me a message that said, "Thank you for telling the truth." It came when Jesse's friend hugged me outside the courthouse and whispered, she deserved to be believed. And she did. That was the truth my brother had tried to lock away, not just in a freezer. Not just in a basement, in every lie he had ever told about the women who feared him. But this time, the door opened. And this time, nobody let him close it again.